Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
It's the saddest and one of the holiest days in Judaism, Tisha B'Av, and thousands of Israelis have taken the day to pray in Jerusalem's Old City, seeming to mark a welcomed return to calm in the heart of the Holy Land. Indeed, the dust is finally starting to settle following 2 weeks of riots and unrest in Jerusalem over the Temple Mount complex. Israel installed security measures at the entrances after a terror attack left 2 police officers dead. Palestinians and Arabs across the Middle East protested and rioted that the status quo on the Temple Mount was being violated. The security measures were fully removed just 2 weeks later. Tisha B'Av commemorates the 5 catastrophes in Judaism, 2 of which are the destruction of the Temple in Jerusalem, once by the Babylonians and again by the Romans. Worshippers flooded into the Western Wall courtyard, the only remaining piece of the Second Temple that still stands, and the second holiest place in Judaism. They pray facing the Temple Mount, the place where the temples once stood, and the holiest place in the Jewish faith. For the first time ever, the human rights organization Amnesty International is speaking out against the terror group Hamas. Amnesty International is of course known as one of Israel's harshest critics, but now it looks like they're coming to the defense of 2 Israeli citizens who are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. Amnesty has just circulated their report of the hostage situation, which also includes the names and contacts of senior Hamas officials in Gaza, rallying for the release of Avraham Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed. The letter explains that both Mengistu and al-Sayed, who illegally jumped the fence into Gaza from Israel in 2014 and 2015 in separate incidents, suffer from, quote, serious mental health disorders. The report accuses that Hamas has known of these medical conditions and denounces the terror group for providing zero information on their fate or condition. Amnesty's letter, however, fails to mention a 3rd Israeli, Juma Ibrahim Abu Ghanima, who is also believed to be held in Gaza. Nor does it bring up the bodies of 3 IDF soldiers Hamas has repeatedly refused to release. But this is the first time Amnesty has come after Hamas like this, and sets a new precedent for the group. We reported recently on one of Hamas's operatives released in the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange when he was re-arrested in Austria for planning a new terror attack in Jerusalem. Well, now an Austrian court has just given the man a life sentence in prison, which makes this his 2nd life sentence. The Palestinian man's name is under gag order, but he was one of hundreds of others serving a life sentence in Israel for terror-related activities, until Israel infamously agreed to free them in exchange for IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. After the Palestinian man was freed in the exchange, he relocated to Austria, and last year Shin Bet caught him trying to organize grenade attacks in Jerusalem through terror cells in the West Bank. Fortunately, the attacks were derailed. Israeli intelligence helped Austria capture the man and provided critical legal assistance at his trial, and now it looks like he's earned a 2nd sentencing to life in prison. Israeli security forces have arrested 33 people who were reportedly the key rioters in the violent clashes around the Temple Mount over the course of the last 2 weeks. The arrests were made on Sunday night after dozens of Israeli police and border guards raided the homes in the neighborhoods of Tur, Shuafat, Beit Hanina, Wadi Hoz, Ras Al Amud, Isawiya, and the Old City. 7 of those arrested are minors, and the youngest is just 13 years old. On July 14th, Israel decided to place metal detectors outside of the Temple Mount after 2 Israeli guards were killed at the holy site in a terror attack with guns that had been stashed there. Riots broke out in protest of the new security barriers, and dozens of people blocked roads, threw Molotov cocktails and stones. Israel has now removed all of its security measures, and the Palestinians have announced that the status quo has been restored to the Temple Mount, but Israeli police are still arresting those involved in the violence. While PA President Mahmoud Abbas is returning from the hospital with a clean bill of health, the same cannot be said of his chief negotiator, Saeb Erekat. The 62-year-old Erekat is suffering from pulmonary fibrosis, a serious lung disease, and he's now reportedly coming to Israel for the life-saving transplant. His Israeli doctors have in fact already informed him months ago that his condition will be terminal should he not receive new lungs. What's interesting is that the irony of Erekat's dependence on Israeli medicine isn't lost on anyone except for Erekat himself. Erekat has made a career of accusing Israel of persecuting Palestinians and Arabs, war crimes, crimes against humanity, massacres, and more. In 2014, when Israel invaded the Gaza Strip during Operation Protective Edge, Erekat called it genocide. The operation began in response to the kidnapping and killing of 3 Israeli teens on a hiking trip, as well as a mass volley of rockets into Israel by Hamas. Well, now that Erekat is on the Israeli transplant waiting list, he may finally be changing his tune.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.